President Trump is in Canada for the G7 summit with huge implications on things like trade deals, but also a brewing war. This could be extremely fraught, with some U.S. allies wondering if Donald Trump is with them or against them. All the while, the G7 nations grappling with the threat of the potential of an all-out war in the Middle East. CNN's chief data analyst, Harry Enten, with me right now. All right, with so many things that are sort of heavily weighing over this summit, what are you learning about what the people of these countries think about Donald Trump and whether he is with or against them?
Yeah, I think that this title slide says it all, why Trump faces a tough room at the G7. That is because the countries outside the U.S. who are part of the G7, those folks, not big fans of Donald Trump. Not big fans at all. No confidence Trump will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Look at this. All these numbers are at least at 60% or above. You could start off here at the bottom, Japan 61, the UK 62. You go to that next row, Italy 68. We're getting higher and higher and higher. Canada 77. And finally, France 78%. And Germany, 81% of Germans have no confidence that Donald Trump will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. We're looking at a supermajority in all 6 of these G7 countries besides the U.S. They do not like Donald Trump. They have no confidence in him to do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. And I think that will inform some of the leaders there in those countries going into this G7 summit with Donald Trump. And again, he's just going to face a tough room because those folks in those countries, they don't really like Donald Trump.
How much has this changed since Trump was elected?
Yeah, this is, I think, you see all these numbers here and you go, okay, has this always been the case that there's been such low confidence in the U.S. leader? Take a look here. Okay, no confidence that the U.S. president will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. We're going to look at a median of those 6 countries that we just saw on the other side. You see it here. In 2025, 73%. The median in those countries have no confidence that Donald Trump will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. With Joe Biden, look how much lower that number was. It was basically 50-50 at 51%. So the percentage of those G7 countries that have no confidence that Donald Trump will do the right thing has gone completely through the roof. We're talking about a 22-point jump in just a year's time. Rough room, tough room for Donald Trump.
Tough room, even with one of our closest allies, both by land and by culture, Canada. Do they want even a deal with Trump?
Yeah, this to me is the number that kind of says it all, right? We're talking about allies of the United States here. No ally has been closer to us over the years than Canada has been, but Canadians are reducing reliance on the U.S. as a trade partner. Look at this. 91% say that yes, that they in fact, that Canadians should in fact reduce reliance on the U.S. as a trade partner. You never see numbers that high. I'm laughing because it's just unprecedented compared to just 9% who disagree. 9%, that's about the percentage of Americans who believe we faked the moon landing. When you're in this territory, you know that we're in a lot of trouble. Donald Trump's in a lot of trouble when it comes to Canadians' views on him.
That is an unprecedented number in any poll, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
All right. Harry Enten, thank you so much.
Thank you.
President Trump is in Calgary for the G7 summit. In just a few hours, he will have his first meeting of the day with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney before the official G7 welcome event that happens at noon. This is the first international summit of Trump's second term, one with major implications on the domestic front for the president's trade deals and internationally, of course, with that growing conflict between Israel and Iran. CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes is in Calgary for what will be a busy day. Kristen.
Yeah, John, it's not as though there isn't anything going on in the world, but when you talk to President Trump and his advisors, the real focus for them is the global economy. It is these trade deals and potentially coming back with trade deals. I mean, we have to remember that the backdrop of all of this is, one, a looming global trade war, but also, two, those reciprocal tariffs that he has promised to put in place. That deadline is coming up and coming up fast. It's July 9th. And we expect Donald Trump to possibly even get aggressive with this, which we've seen in the past. Now, he talked about these trade deals specifically when he was leaving for this trip. Here's what he said.
We have our trade deals. All we have to do is send a letter. This is what you're going to have to pay. But I think we'll have a few new trade deals.
few deals there. You said sending the letters. That's something he's talked about, sending letters to these various allies, trading partners, to say what their unilateral tariffs will be if they don't meet that deadline. We know the European Union, Japan are all looking to make those deals. But when we take trade out of the picture, we just talk about these global alliances and these global relationships. The thing to look at here, you're going to see a lot of these leaders trying to really suss out where Donald Trump stands on various issues. These are some of our closest allies, but as we've seen, Donald Trump doesn't really care about our historically closest allies. And one of the things that these other countries' leaders want to come away with is not having a confrontation, particularly a public confrontation with President Trump. You know, we'll see him sit down with Prime Minister Carney later this morning. The last meeting the two of them had didn't go great. It was on camera, and you saw the Prime Minister, who seemed very prepared for this sit down with Donald Trump, growing increasingly tense while Donald Trump kind of belittled Canada. At one point, he kept talking about how he wanted it to be the 51st state, was talking about trade, laying into him publicly in front of these cameras. And these other leaders, they don't want to have a confrontation like this. They're going to have to, behind the scenes, try to work with Donald Trump, who obviously is a mercurial person and isn't afraid to have these kind of confrontations in public, to see where he stands and if he is on the same side as they are with some of these international issues.
All right, just one of the things, or one of the many things he'll be discussing today. Kristen Holmes in Calgary, thank you so much. Great to see you. Sarah.
Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington State. I want to first just quickly talk to you about the G7. There is concern among G7 leaders that whether or not Donald Trump and the U.S. is with or against them, they are the allies of the United States. How concerned are you about the feeling of the G7 nations?
I'm very concerned. First of all, it's a legitimate concern based on what Donald Trump has done as president in the last 5 months. You know, he's basically started a trade war with the entire world. I mean, we have a major challenge with China. I mean, taking that on its own would be difficult. But now President Trump has alienated all of the potential partners in that challenge. He's made it clear that he will place tariffs on anybody and everybody, regardless of the relationship. And then, as John was just alluding to, the constant belittling of our allies like Canada and Denmark, the threatening to use military force to take Greenland and take Panama and to annex Canada. I think all of the G7 have every reason to worry whether or not Donald Trump is truly going to work with them and be a partner and an ally.
I want to talk about that G7 summit in Canada, where President Trump is going to gather with the leaders of the world's wealthiest nations to discuss a wide range of global issues. High up on the agenda, the Israel-Iran conflict and more potential trade deals the Trump administration hopes to secure.
All we have to do is send a letter. This is what you're going to have to pay. But I think we'll have a few new trade deals, yeah.
Group chat is back. Just reminding people that the Trump administration had set like a 90-day goal to make a bunch of trade deals by, I think this was land in early July. Haven't been a long list that have been announced of confirmed deals. But this is also, the G7 is where, I think last time around when Trump was there, you have that very famous photo of Angela Merkel and everyone standing around him. Very different vibe this time, I assume.
Yeah, but if they can get out of this summit without a major diplomatic conflagration, I think it'll be a success.
You're setting a bar low for a diplomatic event.
Right.
Okay.
I really like that word.
Yeah. Conflagration. You mean tweeting from the plane, which is, I think, what
Whatever.
happened last time.
Showdowns,
Yeah.
people walking out, we'll see. But I don't expect much out of this summit just because the president doesn't really agree on very much with the other leaders that are there. We've seen a complete disconnect. So maybe some progress on trade deals, but I think there's still a question of what exactly the president wants in a lot of these separate deals. What he really wants is tariffs.